lovely listeners. Welcome back to the final chapter of Graham and Pakou in The Devil You Bring Out in Me. It was hard to end this story here, but I hope that you certainly enjoyed this with me. So sit back, relax, and listen to the final chapter.
I've done my best and my worst, learned my lessons. No matter how hard my life would treat me, I'd always get right back up, never worry. 'Cause I got a million reasons to keep holding on. Yeah, I got all that it takes to win and overcome. What I got is just a feeling, but it's oh so strong. It goes on and on, on and on. There's something going on inside of me.
Graham? He jerked awake when he heard her voice and reached out to hold her hand. The tube in her mouth had muffled her voice, and she tried to take it out, but he stopped her. "Don't," he whispered. "It's to help you. Let me go get the doctor." He stood up and walked out the door, and a moment later, a doctor entered wearing a white lab coat. "Mrs. Wally, I'm glad to see those eyes of yours. Let me remove that tube and we can check you to see how you are doing." He gently took the tube out, and Pakou coughed. Saliva slipped down her lips, and Graham reached over to wipe it away. He smiled as he took her hand to hold. "You gave us quite a scare there," the doctor said as he wrote something in his clipboard, and then he took out a flashlight and pointed it at her eyes. "Look here." He checked the other one and smiled. "Looks good. How are you feeling?" She shrugged lightly. "Sore? Well, seeing as you've been lying in bed for 2 weeks, I suspect you'd be sore. But you're up, and some rest will help you to return to normal." He stood up and smiled at Graham. "She's in the clear. By tomorrow morning, if her color returns, I can discharge you." "Thank you, doctor." He smiled at them and left as he turned his attention to her. "How are you feeling?" Her eyes became misty, and she reached out to touch the bear he'd grown on his face. "This is new?" Laughing, he replied, "Yeah, I was going to shave, but I wasn't expecting you to wake up today." "What happened?" "Justin came barging in with a gun and shot at me. Then," his voice dropped and his eyes filled with tears, "then you, foolish you, came to me and he shot you twice. The second one just missed your heart. He dropped his voice as a sob came through. "Pakou, you scared the living shit out of me. Don't ever do that again." She let out a sob. "I'm sorry." He dropped his head and kissed her knuckles. "The bullet grazed my shoulder, just barely. But it took you out cold. I was so scared." And then he lifted his head up and looked at her. "There you were, my blushing bride, bleeding like a stuck pig in my arms, and no matter what I did, the blood wouldn't stop coming. I was screaming for help, and when they took you away from me, I felt as if my entire world crashed." He reached out and touched her cheek. "It started out as an infatuation with you, me wanting to protect you, and having you use my name to become stronger. It took almost losing you to realize forever and a day is what I need with you. I love you, Pakou, my wife, my bride, my everything." Pakou sobbed as he stood and took her lips gently in his. "I love you, and I will never forgive you if you don't spend an eternity with me." "Just eternity?" she asked. "Eternity and the rest of your next 1,000 lives." Entering Graham's home, she expected peace and quiet, but was met with a huge welcome home shout from her friends at work and Graham's parents. Ka was in the front, already running to hug her as she poured her heart out to her. Ruth and Nelson took turns giving her a hug as Graham helped her to get settled down in the living room. Ka took the time to announce that it was her who had decorated the entire place with Ruth's help. The two had become best friends since she'd been at the hospital. There was so much food to enjoy, and the company took the pain from her body away. Toward the end of the night, Graham must have saw how exhausted she was and asked everyone to leave. Ruth and Nelson came to hug her, and Kyle gave her a kiss on the cheek before leaving. Once the house was quiet and it was just the two of them, he lifted her up in his arms and carried her to the bathroom, where the tub was filled with warm water. "Mrs. Wally, let's get you cleaned and ready for bed," he whispered. She was frightened, as this was going to be the first time he'd seen her without clothes, but she trusted him, and as he removed one article of clothing off her, she blushed and kept her eyes lowered, not able to look him in the eyes. When he'd placed her in the tub and grabbed a sponge to wash her, she finally looked at him. "Thank you," she whispered. Smiling, he caught her hand in his and kissed the tips of her fingers. "You're mine to please. Now, relax and let me wash you. I promise I'll be gentle." "I know you will be." She felt the sponge across her back, and the aroma from the soap filled the room. "What will happen to Justin? He will be lucky if he can get parole." "We'll have to meet him in court, won't we?" she asked. Nodding, he replied, "Yes, but only for the trial. After that, we will have nothing to do with him or his wife. They both can rot in prison." She shut her eyes. "I didn't think it would boil down to this. I mean, I knew he was still eager to be with me, but not like this." "Sweetheart, that gunshot was intended for me. And you, being the brave hero, jumped in to take the bullet." He tipped her chin up to him. "If you ever do that again, I'll put you over my knee." Smiling, Pakou replied, "Jeez, you're that serious?" "Yes, I am." He smiled and began washing her arm and hands. "Once you are dressed, I have something for you." "What is it?" Laughing, he replied, "Eager little creature, are we?" Once dressed, he took her hands in his, and Pakou watched as his eyes filled up with an emotion that made her heart swell. He took her left hand in his and reached into his pocket, pulling out a diamond ring and band. He slipped it onto her finger and looked up at her. "We never got to finish our vows," he said as he smiled. "Pakou, I vow today, from this moment on, to take your heart with me and to care for it as I would mine. I vow to protect you with all my being and to comfort you when you are alone. I vow to be the shield to you when you find you are facing tribulations, and I will honor, respect, and love you for all that you are and will become." Pakou felt her heart flutter with his words, and then he reached into his other pocket and pulled out a silver ring. He gave it to her, and she took it, realizing it was her turn. She took a deep breath and slipped the ring on him. "Graham, I vow today to be your partner in life and eternity. I vow to respect you and give you the truth in all moments in time. I vow to allow you to grow with me through good and bad times, and I will never hurt with intention. I vow to understand you and trust you without doubt." He smiled. "You may now kiss the bride." He pulled her toward him and leaned down to kiss her lips, at first gently, and then with more force as the feelings multiplied in them. When he pulled away, he touched her cheeks. "Once you are healed, I aim to make you completely all mine. For now, let me hold you, Mrs. Graham Wally." "You should be resting, not back at work already," Ka said as she arranged a bouquet of flowers on Pakou's desk. She noticed that her friend's waist had gotten thicker, and she smiled quietly. When Kyle looked up, though, she caught the smile and planted her hands on her hips. "You're smiling at my weight gain, aren't you?" she asked. Shaking her head, Pakou replied, "You look incredibly cute, Ka. I really can't wait to see your belly grow." She made a face. "That's easy for you to say when it's not you." She took a deep breath. "I'm going to have dinner with Roger tonight. I'm going to tell him." This made Pakou perk up, and she walked toward her. "Do you need me there for moral support?" "As much as I'd like that, I think I have to do this alone. Go in strong and finish strong." "I like that idea." "So you figured it's his for sure?" I went back to look at my calendar, and between the last period I had and the moment I found I was pregnant, I only slept with Roger. The last guy I was out with was 3 months before him, and I had a long dry spell of nothing. I'm 100% positive it's Roger's. She reached out and touched her friend's hand. "I'm rooting for you." "Thanks. And while you do that, I'm getting ready to meet my lawyer for trial, and I'm a little afraid of what to expect. I am not prepared to meet Justin face to face. This time, Kyle was the one who reached over to touch her hand. How are you handling all this? I mean, marriage, attempted murder, death almost? You must be all over the place with your emotions. I'm okay, oddly enough, but I think a huge portion of it goes to Graham for taking such good care of me. He hasn't let me disappear from his eyes for a moment. Kyle laughed. Well, aren't you alone right now? Right? Pakou showed him her ring. You see this ring? It's equipped with GPS in it, so he knows where I am at all times. Kyle made a face. Oh my, invasion much? After what I went through? I don't mind it at all. I like the protection. And just as they were talking, Graham opened the door and casually walked in. Kyle gave her a quick smile and darted out the door as he closed it behind her. He came to Pakou and wrapped his arms around her, kissing the top of her head. How are you doing? He asked in a gentle tone. Fine, Mr. Wally. And then she pulled away. I don't want to face Justin. I know you don't. But to put him behind bars for good, you will have to. I'll be right there beside you. Come on, if you're ready, let's go. Graham wanted to beat the man's face into a pulp when he had walked into the courtroom. Their lawyer, Stephanie Audley, had been there to make sure he wouldn't get bail. And when the judge announced no bail, he let out a breath of relief. Until trial, he would be locked up for good. But his wife was another story, as she'd received bail, and he put in a restraining order against her. On the ride home from the courthouse, Graham could sense the tension in his wife's expression. He felt helpless as he drove the car back to work. Once he parked the car, he turned around and took her hands before she got out. I don't want you to worry about anything. I'm going to take care of it all, he said. She nodded and smiled at him, although he knew it was forced. I understand, Graham, and I know you will. She pulled her hands away and got out of the car as he let out a deep breath. Somehow, he felt this wasn't going to go away as easily as he thought. That night, making love to her was like winning the lottery. He'd officially made her his, and everything about her was complete perfection from the strands of her hair down to her toes. Everything that blended the two of them together was what he needed, and the emotion that burned inside him as he came together with her proved to him that this was what he was missing from his life before. Now that he had it, he would never let it go. He watched her sleep beside him, hair tousled and lips bruised from his kisses, and he smiled. How did he get so lucky? He remembered when his eyes fell onto her employee profile, and all the thoughts in his mind stopped. He wanted to pursue her because she was different, and it was what he felt he needed to continue living. Never did he expect to fall in love this fast and deep. Everything about her was a breath in him, and if taken away, he'd cease to exist. He reached over and ran a hand through her hair. She stirred, but didn't wake, and that was when he heard the sound of a door opening. He sat up in bed and walked out toward the darkness of the living room. He waited patiently, and then heard the hissing of the wind blowing in. Turning the lights on, he saw Justin's wife standing in the middle of the room with a gun pointed at him. Her face was completely broken and in pain. He raised his hands immediately to let her know he wasn't going to harm her. What are you doing here? He asked. You don't remember me, do you? She asked with a trembling voice. Graham? Pakou's voice came from the bedroom, and then she appeared when her face broke into horror at the sight of the woman in their house. Get over there, she cried. Stay away from him. Pakou obeyed and moved to the kitchen, a good distance away from him as she moved the gun from one to the other. Hey, Graham said as she turned her eyes to him. Point your gun at me. Leave her out of this. Talk to me. Who are you? She's Justin's wife, Pakou replied. The woman laughed. I'm Justin's wife. The low bastard has always cheated on me with women. He's never loved me, giving me children to birth, and yet he finds another to warm his bed. She began to cry. If only you had chosen me, Graham, it wouldn't have to be this way. Graham frowned. What are you talking about? I don't know who you are. Shaking, she said in a soft voice, I'm Laura Connor from Shepherd High School. You were my math tutor after school. I asked you out once and you turned me down. Graham dug into his memory, and then suddenly he remembered. Laura Connor was this shy girl with little self-esteem who was picked on by so many people. He had felt sorry for her, and when their math teacher told her she was about to fail, he had been kind enough to offer tutoring. Laura? He asked, shocked. Why are you ruining the memory I have of you? Laughing, she replied, You said no to me, and that is why I am with Justin today. You could have helped me, and yet you left me to die. All those fake words you said about how to be strong and how you thought I was beautiful, it was all lies. Oh my God, Pakou whispered. As she said this, Laura swung the gun at her, and Graham shouted for her attention. Keep your gun focused on me, he cried. This has nothing to do with Pakou. This is about you and me. Nodding her head, Laura whispered, It is about you and me. You deserted me, and I found my way through Justin's lies. If only you had said yes to me, I wouldn't be here today. Her eyes turned to Pakou. I would be her, wearing your ring, your name, and living this life. And then her eyes shifted back to him. What was so wrong about me, Graham? Nothing is wrong with you, Laura. But you can't fool the heart into making decisions when it doesn't want to. You can't hate me for telling you no, because if I had told you yes, it would be a lie. Laura began shaking, and then suddenly she turned the gun on herself. Graham took a step forward, and she cocked it. You come closer, and I'll blow my brains out all over your living room wall. He retreated, and she took a deep breath. I want you to do something for me, Graham. Can you? If it's within my power? No, that's not a good enough answer. I need your promise to do it. Shaking his head, he replied, I can't do that, Laura. You need to tell me what it is first, and I'll see what I can do. Tears streamed down her face. I have loved you since high school, Graham. Every day when I saw your face in the news, it would fill my days with hope. When Justin started screwing around again, I felt I was going to die. But then I saw your photo taken together with Pakou at the gala, and it just broke me. First she took my husband, and now she took you. She shifted her eyes to Pakou. What is so good about her anyways? She only takes what belongs to other people. Laura, he said as he gently took a step forward. Laura, listen to me. I can help you find hope. I can. It doesn't have to be this way. You need to trust me. Trust you? She asked, turning toward him. Can I trust you? Yes. She stood up and walked to meet him. Okay. Then kill her. She gave the gun to Graham. Shoot her in the head, and we'll be together forever. I can't do that, he said. You liar! She screamed as she turned the gun toward him. You liar! As she ready to fire the gun, Graham threw a punch underneath her arm, and it fired a hole into the ceiling. He immediately shoved her to the ground, and the gun clattered to the corner of the room. Pakou ran for it, and so did she. He called out her name as the two women collided together with each other, and a gunshot was fired. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. The pastor dropped 2 white roses in the grave as Pakou and Graham watched from afar, as Justin was on his knees crying. The funeral had been a short one, and the people standing by the newly dug grave began to part. The detectives collected as sobbing Justin and handcuffed him again as they took him toward the squad car. Graham took her hand and led her to where they parked the car. As they got in, he leaned over and kissed her lips. Where to, Mrs. Wally? Smiling, Pakou replied, Home, where I can ravish you. He smiled. You bring out the devil in me. Thank you for tuning in. I certainly hope that you enjoy The Devil You Bring Out in Me. I will see you in the next episode.
I've been through heartaches, I've been to heaven. I've done my best and my worst, learned my lessons. No matter how hard my life would treat me, I'd always get right back up, never worry.